Welcome to our instructional series on using E-clips to reinstall fallen kitchen or bathroom sinks. Step 1. Immediately support the bottom of the sink with 2x4s to prevent further damage to the drain system or garbage disposal. Be cautious not to dent the sink bottom by forcing the 2x4s into place. Step 2. Investigate that the drain connections are not cracked or damaged from the fallen sink. If damaged, additional steps will be involved for resetting the sink. Using a razor knife or scraper, clean the residual caulk, epoxy, or whatever previously was used to install and seal the sink from the top edge rim of the sink. This is the area of the sink that is hidden under the countertop. Next, using acetone or rubbing alcohol, clean the underside of the countertop where previous support mechanisms were applied. Before proceeding to the installation stage, ensure that you have sufficient shims or wedges to support the increased height of the 2x4s needed when the sink is raised to the underside of the countertop. To begin reinstallation of the sink, first place a 1/4 inch wide bead of 100% silicone on the center top edge of the sink rim all around the rim of the sink. Do not use any silicone derivatives using latex or other additives. Use only 100% silicone material to prevent leaks and failure. Raise the sink up to the underside of the countertop and position the sink so that the interior is balanced in the opening from left to right as well as front to back. Support the sink with 2x4s used earlier and shim or wedge into position under the bottom of the sink bowls. Now that the sink is positioned and temporarily supported, it is time to install the E-clips to the underside of the countertop. The placement location for the E-clips on the underside of the countertop should be identified next, as these areas must be thoroughly cleaned using acetone or rubbing alcohol to ensure maximum surface adherence between the epoxy and the countertop material. The underside of the natural stone countertop has a residual stone slurry embedded in the nooks and cracks from the original slicing of the 2 cm or 3 cm slab from the quarried block. The epoxy will release from the countertop material if the underside of the countertop is not properly cleaned. The E-clip should be installed on each corner of the sink and in between the corners, allowing for no distance greater than 10 inches apart. Once the locations are identified and cleaned, the epoxy can be mixed. The epoxy will begin to harden in 30 to 40 minutes, so preparations must be completed prior to mixing. Organize the E-clips on a floor or counter to allow for a panic-free access when applying the epoxy to the back of the clip base, and then in the proper position on the underside of the countertop. Securely push each clip to the underside of the countertop, causing the epoxy to squeeze through the holes in the stud base of the E-clips. The epoxy in the stud base holes increases the surface area adhesion, giving the epoxy a better grip between the countertop and the E-clips base. Once all the E-clips are installed, allow for the epoxy to cure over the next 24 hours. Premature stress on the epoxy will cause failure. After curing the epoxy for 24 hours, the E-clip slotted bracket can be placed over the stud and secured with the wing nut. Tighten the wing nut down so that the end of the bracket securely draws down onto the sink rim. Do not over torque, just snug the wing nut into position. Now the 2x4s and the wedges can be removed and the under counter details should be completed. The final step is to place a 100% silicone seal around the interior of the sink bowls where the sink rim meets the countertop. There's no need to over-apply the silicone. The point is to create a smooth, non-detectable seal that prevents water from going between the sink rim and the underside of the countertop material. Finally, verify that the drains and the garbage disposal are secure and test the sink and drain system with a water test. It is good practice to re-inspect the drain system over the next several days to verify that no subtle cracks or leaks have evolved from the sink originally dropping. This concludes the installation instructions for E-clips. Thanks for viewing, and we look forward to helping you again.